Well, hello there. My name is Blade, and we've got some catching up to do. So, as you know, or maybe if you didn't know, I was regularly reviewing movies on this channel last year, and then I stepped away for like a good chunk of the year. So, there's a good chunk of movies that I would have liked to do video reviews to that I did not, as well as I posted last year all the movies that I watched that came out last year that I didn't do dedicated reviews to. I did a video just like this one where I kind of was like, let me catch up with those movies and give you like smaller, briefer thoughts and opinions on them. So that's what I'm going to be doing today with the rest of 2025 and just a little bit of January of this year because I felt weird. I thought about making video reviews for the ones I watched in January, but I think it'd be playing too much catch up, so it's just better for this to be like the starting point, you know? So we're going to get a tiny bit into January of this year as well, but when I compiled the list of all the movies 2025 movies that I had not made a comment on yet. There was 57 movies. So I then condensed it down to only movies that I was like, I'm going to just cut out anything that I don't really have anything to say. And there are still 30 movies. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do the timestamps on this video, if I'm going to do it movie by movie or like rating by rating, because I'm going to go in order instead of chronological order. I think to make it easier, I'm going to go in order of where they're currently rating on my Letterboxd. So let's get into it. I'm gonna honestly, maybe for some of them that I have like a lot to say on, I'll expand a little bit, but I'm gonna keep my thoughts like pretty brief for the sake of this video not being like an hour long. Alright, first up, we are starting with movies that I rated 2 stars. Now, there's only one, and ironically, this is a 2025 catch-up video, but this is a 2026 movie, and that is Return to Silent Hill. I really wanted to like this. I love the original Silent Hill movie, and a lot of people don't. I even have kind of like a guilty pleasure for Silent Hill Revelations. I enjoy the video games, so I was strapped in, ready to go with this, but this was just bad. Like, I tried to gaslight myself a little bit when I first watched it, saying it was a 3-star, but like literally like an hour later, I was like, no, like this is bad. The writing is bad. Like the story makes no sense. The CGI, I know they were working with a low budget, but good God, it was bad. Like it just overall, it was not a good time. The only positive thing I really have to say is I liked the camera angles and some of the dialogue felt very video game, and I thought that was cool, but overall, it was a no. Alright, next up we have films that I rated 2.5 stars, 2.5 stars, which again is only one film, and that is Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Now, don't get me wrong, Five Nights at Freddy's, the first movie, was not great. It was a big disappointment. Well, I shouldn't say big, but it was kind of a disappointment. Like, it just wasn't that scary, wasn't that interesting. I don't think they did the best job of, like, adapting kind of the storyline or whatever, but I was like, you know what? Five Nights at Freddy's 2, maybe it'll give. As when I was younger, I was a FNAF fan, so I was like, you know what? Let me give it a chance. But y'all, no, it was a no. I think it was like I think the 2.5 literally is just the generosity of me thinking that it was at least like moderately entertaining and it had some like funny moments, but the writing is just not good. I don't like how they're adapting the storyline from the games, and yeah, it just could have been better. Also, I'm not gonna spoil, but what they did to my girl McKenna Grace was a crime.
Girl, prison, honey.
Alright, we are now moving into movies that I rated 3 stars, and finally, there's a little bit more in the category. So we're gonna start off with After the Hunt. Now, I'm gonna be honest. Me giving this 3 stars is kind of generous because I really did not vibe with this movie. I think the 3 stars for me, I purely gave it just off of like technical craft and what's the word? And for oh my God, I just had it. Oh, that it's competent. Like it is a fine, well made like movie, you know, like it's not a poorly made movie, so I felt like giving anything less than 3 felt a little bit like too mean. But that being said, this movie, first of all, it's too long. It's too long. It really overstays its welcome and like spindles on and just like like a good, dare I say, like 30 like a full 30 minutes could have been cut from this. And I just think the writing wasn't very good. Like I just don't think it was compelling. I think it was also like saying a lot but not saying anything at all. I do think Andrew Garfield and Julia Roberts and Ayo Edebiri gave like good performances, but at the end of the day, their performances like couldn't elevate the movie. And then also, I think my number one crime with this movie is there is this scene that I guess is the penultimate scene. It's not the final scene, but it's like what happens right before the final scene. That could have been the ending, and that was weirdly enough, that was the most interesting part of the movie. It actually got tears out of me. Like I was really compelled by that moment, and then they just tack on this extra like 10 minutes that I understood the purpose of what it was trying to serve, but it just really undermined the scene that came before it. So overall, listen, Luca Guadagnino, love your work, but this was a miss for me. Next up, we have Friendship, which is the film from Tim Robinson. Now, this is like fine to me. Like there is some comedic moments to it that are funny, and it is very original. I'll give it that. Like it's very original. It's very Tim Robinson. I just think the 3 stars for me. It's not that it's bad. I think the 3 stars is just because it's just good. Like it's just good, and I think also it just wasn't my like personal taste. It didn't really like resonate all that much with me, and sometimes that's fine. I think it's important when like reviewing and commentating to both like to be fair about the actual technical craft and writing and acting performances, like to be unbiased in your opinion about it, but it's also equally fair to acknowledge that and just say, but also it wasn't personally my taste, and that's kind of just how I feel about Friendship. Like to me, it was just fine. Next up, we have Good Boy, which is the horror movie that is from the perspective of a dog, the little indie dog movie that kind of took over. You know, it got bumped up to a wider release, and you know, I think how I feel about this movie is it like the best thing ever? No, but I gave it 3 stars because I was really impressed by the idea and that it was competently executed. You know, I think filming from a dog, like making the protagonist a dog, and it's not a talking dog either, it's like just a dog, you know, is not easy. And I believe they filmed it for like 2 years. So I was just overall impressed that they were able to execute this and that it did have, you know, a compelling storyline. It was a little slow at times, and there was a, you know, I think it could be a little bit more refined. But overall, I think it was an accomplishment, and I'm very happy at the success of it, that it got such a wide release and that it got all this attention. And apparently the dog is up for an award somewhere. So I'm like, you know what? I'm here for that. All right, so last in my 3 stars is Wicked for Good. Now, when I originally saw this, I did give it a 4 stars because I do love the first movie, but I think my love for the first movie kind of influenced that 4 stars. And upon reflection, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be real. This is more of a 3 star moment because it just isn't as compelling as the first movie. And I think part of what the issue is, the part of the section of the musical, the original Broadway musical that is this movie, is only like, it's very small. I want to say like 45 minutes to an hour, maybe even less. Like it's a very small portion of the actual Broadway musical because it's kind of just like wrapping things up. It's kind of just like telling you the aftermath, you know? So making an entire movie that's just the aftermath is kind of hard. And I saw the attempt at how they were kind of trying to restructure it so it would still have rising action, climax, like resolution, but this whole movie in a way is the resolution in the musical. And then also this part of the musical is more drab, and not to say that the first movie or the musical doesn't have some more, like real, we'll say, moments, like darker moments, but this one, in comparison to the fun and the whimsy and everything, it just is a lot more drab. So I think it overall just contributes to a movie that unfortunately just can't live up to the first part. But that being said, I don't think it's awful. I'm not on that train of people who think it's like a total dud. I think it just feels that way because in comparison to the first, but I think it's good. Like, I think it's fine. Like, it's just nothing like the original. I do think the Academy completely shutting out is wild. I still think Ariana should have been in supporting actress, but that's besides the point. Yeah, Wicked for Good, it's fine. It's just not as good as Wicked Part 1. All right, now moving on to films, and I gave 3.5 stars. And first up, just going alphabetical, is a 2026 movie, which is Dead Man's Wire. Now, this wasn't really even on my radar, but I saw a trailer for it, and I saw that it was Gus Van Sant. And if you so happen to have been a viewer of this channel for a while, Gus Van Sant made one of my favorite movies, Drugstore Cowboy with Matt Dillon. So that had me interested. I also kind of liked the, seeing that it was going to be like a 70s kind of vibe. I was already like, okay, like, I need to see this. I went to the theater, and it's good. Like, it's not groundbreaking. It's not anything crazy, but I do think it's a good time. I saw some initial reviews that were really harsh and said it was like a slog and really boring, but personally I liked it. I don't think it's anything too crazy, but if you want just a nice story that does have a little bit of some fun editing and like some stakes to it, I think it's fine. Next up, we have If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Now, I've been waiting to see this movie for quite some time. I think it premiered at Sundance all the way, over a year ago now, and I've been hearing all the Rose Byrne hype for the performance. Now, I do think her performance is great. I think her performance was great. I understand the Oscar nomination buzz, but overall as a movie, I'm gonna just be honest and say it didn't really, at a certain point, it felt like a chore watching it. Like, I just wasn't all that engaged with it, and I don't know, by the end, I didn't really feel like a sense of resolution either. Now, it's not an easy to watch movie because the whole thing is very anxiety inducing and very like laboring. And it's that way by design. So I'm not necessarily critiquing that. Like, and I went in knowing that, but it still to me just didn't fully like sit with me. Like, I just think there's a slightly better version of this movie. And also I think similar to one of the movies I mentioned previously, Friendship, that it just wasn't like my taste. Alright, next up we have Left-Handed Girl. Now this is a little hidden gem for me. I gave it 3.5 stars because I was just being completely honest with my like opinion as far as it is as a film. It just didn't feel right giving it a 4 or anything higher. It does have some like, I wouldn't say issues. It's one of those movies where I don't really think it has issues. It's just not at the level of a 4 or 5. I think things can still be good, but it doesn't always need to be like great. I think this is a good movie, but it is a little hidden gem. I just kind of watched it on a whim, and I found out that Sean Baker kind of had a hand in it. So I was like, you know what, like, let's see. And I loved it. I gave it a 3.5, but I personally really love it. It's a story about this little girl who she's left-handed, and I guess in some Asian cultures that's kind of seen, well, not anymore, but like in the past is seen as like a demonic thing and like something to be ashamed of. And her grandfather still like holds that opinion, so he kind of puts that on her. But that honestly is like the least interesting part of the movie, because there's this really rich and interesting like family dynamic. I can't say too much because it would be way like big time spoiler, but there's this really rich, interesting family dynamic that's going on between So it's the little girl, the left-handed girl, her older sister, and the mom. There's a big age gap between the two sisters, and you can get the sense that the mom just isn't necessarily like a mom, if that makes sense. So it's a really rich, interesting story. Yeah, I definitely recommend this movie. It's a little hidden gem. All right, next up we have Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is okay, so it is a remake of the original Silent Night, Deadly Night, but it definitely takes its own creative liberties. And I just have to say, this is so fun. It's another one like Left-Handed Girl that I gave 3.5 stars because it just isn't at the level of like 4 or 5 to me, but it's good. Like, I have really no criticisms. It's a very fun Christmas horror movie, but honestly, even though it's a Christmas horror movie, I would watch this any time of the year. Like, I loved it. I had such a good time. I thought the editing was really fun. I liked, that he had, I can't remember his name right now, but the little voice in his head. It was a really fun time. And then also, I don't want to spoil it, but there's like this scene that we'll just say makes a very political statement that was very like, hell yeah, like it was rock and roll. Like, it's just a good fun time. The ending made me a little bit sad. I'm not gonna say what happens, but the ending did make me a little bit sad. But overall, this is a really fun Christmas horror movie that I will definitely be adding to my like obligatory annual Christmas season watch. All right, let's get a little controversial because next up we have The Housemaid. Now, I don't think the movie The Housemaid itself is controversial, but my jeans are blue.
My jeans are blue.
But that aside, I will say this. I don't really think this movie is like for me in a sense, but me and my cousin like kind of like we always call these like, oh, these are our movies. Like, are these types of movies that we watch that are just kind of like, ooh, and like, like it's just like they're like fun to watch. We actually went to go watch this as a whole family. And let me tell you something. This was probably the funnest movie theater experience I had all year. Like, the crowd was getting wild over this movie because it's just kind of that type of movie, like there's dramatic things happening, there's spicy things happening, and I'm really glad that we had an audience that was like willing to like ooh and ah and like laugh at it as a like community together. But but also that being said, it's fine. Like it is a fun, good, entertaining time, but it's also just like not that amazing, and there is some like writing stuff and there is some kind of like eye roll moments, but I'm overall like not mad at it. I think Amanda Seyfried, for this kind of like whatever, I shouldn't say whatever movie, but this like not prestige movie does give a really good performance. Sydney Sweeney, jeans aside, I don't really think was the right pick for the. She was and she wasn't. She was at times, and there were some other times where I was like, go girl, give us nothing,
My jeans are blue.
All right, next up we have The Phoenician Scheme by Wes Anderson. Now, this is another one that, like, I just didn't feel right giving it, like, a 4 or anything higher because I just don't think it's as strong for me as his other films. I really love I Love Dogs. I really love, like, Fantastic Mr. Fox. Like, I just didn't think that it was like quite at that level, but this is a fun time. Has some really great performances in it. Benicio del Toro in it is great. I love the editing. I love the way it looks. Of course, it's Wes Anderson. I know for some people his movies don't like that style. I do. So I think it's a good fun time. Definitely recommend if you like Wes Anderson, but I don't really have anything more to say about it beyond that, if that makes sense. That's kind of why it's a 3.5 for me. Like, it's just like, it's good. Like, I don't have a lot of negative critiques. There's like maybe the writing could have been a little bit like more compelling. Maybe it could have moved even faster, but it's like a good time. All right, next up, penultimately in the 3.5, I have The Smashing Machine. Now, this is, as we know, we got separate movies from both Safdie brothers this year. This is the one from Benny Safdie. Now, it is inspired by a true story, so it is non-fiction. So I don't really have a lot to say about the writing and the storyline because I feel like with non-fiction it's a little bit harder to critique those things because like I don't know how close or how not close to what actually happened it is, so I can discuss how I think the writing attacked like making real life events compelling, but I also don't know where the line of reality starts and ends. So I feel I have a hard time commenting on like the actual writing aspect of it, but I think my overall thoughts on this movie are just that it's good. Like it's just not anything like crazy impressive. The directing was great as always of the Safdie brothers. The editing I love. The score I love. The score is honestly probably one of my favorite scores of the year. So I just think yeah. Also I think the Dwayne the Rock Johnson I actually think did a really good job. I think how do I say this? Like I don't think he was completely playing himself. Like I do think he was acting, but I do think he also was still playing himself a little bit, but he found like that balance of like how to bring himself to the role, if that makes sense. And then also the movie does include a small scene of like the actual person. So once I saw the actual person's mannerisms and speaking, I was like, oh wow, like Dwayne actually really like embodied this pretty well. So I think overall like it's good. There's nothing crazy, but it's good. All right, so last in 3.5 stars, I have VHS Halloween. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a while, I am a big fan of the VHS movies. In fact, I'd even say one of my dreams as a filmmaker is I would love to direct a short in a VHS installment. Hopefully one day if they're still making them. But this one, I have such conflicting feelings towards because overall, I will say like I like it, like it's good. I just don't know where it sits for me in like me ranking all. I don't know if it's 7 or 8 now, but all like 7 or 8 VHS movies because I was very excited about the Halloween premise. I just think maybe my issues, a lot of them were kind of like samey same, and not like the actual plot lines, but just like the era and the vibe they went for, which is fine. But I think when you watch a VHS movie, we're like expecting that kind of variety. But I will also say they probably don't have total control of how much variety there will be, because then the people submit their stuff and it's like, well, they have what they have. But that's not to discredit it. Like I still think it's a good fun time. I just don't think. I think I gave it a 3.5 because 3.5 feels like the unbiased score for it, and I also just think if I'm comparing it to other VHS movies, it's somewhere like middle of the pack. I will say Kid Tape, I think is what it's called, at first like really turned me off of this movie because it was just such a hard like whoa, like really serious, really dark, really crazy. But I've actually slowly come around to like actually I kind of applaud it. I still think it crosses the line a little bit. I still think there's some parts of it that I would say do a little bit too much, but I actually do think I applaud it for going there, and I also think I applaud the team behind VHS for being willing to include it, especially when the things surrounding it were a little bit more like lighthearted horror. All right, moving on to 4 stars. I'm noticing a trend that just by way of alphabetical that 2026 movies are at the start of like almost every little section, but we have 28 years later, The Bone Temple. Now let me tell you something. This movie eats. Now 28 years later, notably as I've said on this channel back when it was right before I stopped doing the reviews, I wasn't the biggest fan. I didn't like hate. It just kind of was a little bit disappointing for me. But 28 years later, The Bone Temple had me lit in my theater seat. Okay, first of all, Ralph Fiennes, great performance. Jack O'Connell, great performance. All across the board, great performances. This movie is so good. I think it brings back some elements from the original 28 years later that we all love. I also think it balanced like the drama and like the horror of the situation with like crazy like absurd things going on, but like somehow it didn't feel like too much like it was a little bit unbelievable, but like in a fun way where you're like I'm vibing with this and not like girl, like this is too like come on now. I also the music choices in this movie, the Kid A of it all, the Iron Maiden of it all, like overall I think this movie just in general like they did that. Like I gave it a 4 just because I don't think it's at the level of a 5, but like I honestly pretty much have no notes. All right, next up we have Caught Stealing. Now, when I originally watched this, I gave it a 5 stars, and I did watch it on my birthday too, so maybe I was just like really vibing, I don't know. But as time went on, I was like, I think I need to calm down just a little bit. But that being said, I still really enjoyed it. I just was like, okay, 5 is like masterpiece level, 5 stars is crazy. This is a good movie. I think this is a really good movie. It's Darren Aronofsky, and what really intrigued me about this movie is it was directed by Darren Aronofsky, but it was like not like a crazy horror, psychological, like metaphorical thing. It was like a straightforward plot, so I was very intrigued to see how that was gonna go. I think it's a good, fun time with also some good dramatic moments, a little action here and there. I think all the acting across the board is great. Austin Butler, Regina King, Zoe Kravitz. There's a little of Bad Bunny. There's Bad Bunny's also in this movie briefly, and he's really good. So honestly, I think this is a good, fun time. I would normally say if you're into Darren Aronofsky, check this out, but I could also see how maybe if you're into his other work, you might actually not vibe. But I think this is like another kind of like hidden gem. It's not that hidden. I mean, you got a wide release, but I just don't see a lot of conversation around it. So I think check it out. All right, next up we have Die My Love. Now, I was very excited for this. Jennifer Lawrence, I would probably still say is pretty much my favorite actress. I just haven't seen her in the theater in a long time, and I still haven't been able to watch I've seen No Hard Feelings, but she did another movie before that about I think a veteran that I just haven't been able to see still because it's on Apple TV. But so this is my first time in a while like seeing a new movie with Jennifer Lawrence, and it is by Lynn Ramsey, who made We Need to Talk About Kevin, that I also watched last year. So I went into this very excited, and I had a great time with this. I think it's not like masterpiece level, but I loved the editing. I loved like the kind of like psychological, like what's going on. Like, oh my god, what's that movie called? I can't remember the name of the movie right now, but I'll put it on screen. It's like Woman on the Edge of a Breakdown or something like that. Classic movie, but it's very that, Woman Under the Influence, I think. But yeah, I think this is a great movie. I love the way it looked. I think we don't get a lot of movies that are super stylized and like not vibrant the way that this one looks. Like, it's gonna sound crazy, but it's doing dull right. I think there's a lot of movies I know that look dull, like Wicked last year, that like the color could have been there, but this is one where the dullness and that blue and whatever like really works. And I think the biggest thing that I got out of this movie, I won't spoil it, but I really love what the story was about, like what it was focusing on. And yeah, I think overall, if you're into, like character driven, like female driven movies, you're not afraid of a female character who's a little bit unhinged, you will definitely have a good time with this. All right, next up we have another hidden gem, which is Lurker. This dropped on Mubi, and it really impressed me. Like, I was interested in it for a while since, I believe, Sundance. I don't think it was Cannes, I think it was Sundance. And wow, I fought hard with this. It is about this guy who just ends up coming across this like on the rise singer, and he kind of jumps on his coattails, and then things get a little weird and obsessive, and like it's just a whole thing. But it's really good. Like, I don't know, just the way the story moves and the story flows is so riveting, and you're just like, how far is this gonna go? And then also where it ends up is really kind of surprising, but also it's kind of like you should have seen that coming from a mile away. All the performances are great. Like, this is a good little hidden gem find, and honestly, I would say more, but I think it's kind of one of those movies where I'm like, I want you to go into it with not too much. So I definitely recommend. I really loved this movie. Alright, next up we have On Swift Horses. Now, this movie definitely released very quietly, because they got teased all the way back in like the beginning of like 2024, I think, or maybe even like the end of 2023. So it's barely gotten its streaming releasing now through Sony Pictures Classics, and it was a very quiet release, and this movie very much went under the radar. I can kind of see why. it's not the most perfect thing. And I'll even admit some of my 4 stars could maybe have a little bit more of a bias towards just personally liking it and also liking Jacob Elordi. But genuinely though, I do think it's good. Like, I think there's a lot of people who don't think it's good. I liked it. It's a nice queer story. There are, I think, why I pull it back a little bit is just because there are some parts of the writing that could have been better. And there's the story kind of hinges on this dynamic between a character played by Jacob Elordi and a character played by Daisy Edgar Jones. And I feel like it was lacking in that department. And that's like kind of where the bulk of the story is coming from, so I wish that could have been tightened up a little bit more. But yeah, if you're looking for like a queer period picture, I think it's worth checking out. I gave it 4 stars. I know a lot of people really don't like it, but that's just how I feel about it. Next up, we have The Long Walk, which is a Stephen King adaptation, and this movie gagged me. Like, I went in expecting to like it, and I was like decently interested, but I really got into this. I think it was so compelling because there's definitely a version of this movie that does not work as well as this one does, and is not as riveting, but they really managed to get you to connect with these characters because it's a little Hunger Games, it's a little, like dystopian, and like it's something we've seen before, but it's kind of like those types of novels, but if we leaned a little bit more like horror. But essentially 50 boys from one state in America walk this, I forgot how many miles it is, but basically they walk until there's only one of them left. So we have a limited amount of time to get to know and also just spend with these characters. And I feel like they did a great job of making me like be invested in these characters. And I'll be honest, there were several times that I got emotional. Specifically, I am indigenous. There is a native character that, like, there's this scene that, like, made me, like, sob. Like, this movie, and I rarely, like, cry like that at movies, let alone at the movie theater. So, yeah, this is a great, great, great watch. Definitely recommend if you're a Stephen King person, if you're a like dystopian, like YA person. This was really great. And also the casting across the board. The 2 leads, or like lead, co-lead, whatever, are Cooper Hoffman and David Johnson. They're great. Like, the casting department did a great job. This is a great, great movie. Next up, we have The Mastermind. Now, this kind of just quietly came onto my radar and also just quietly released on Mubi. It's a film by Kelly Reichardt, but I think what really got me interested was that it stars Josh O'Connor. I really like Josh O'Connor. And I don't know, like, you know that thing where you just see a still from a movie or a piece of a trailer or an ad or whatever, you're just kind of like, yeah, like, I can tell I'm gonna vibe with this. Now, the interesting thing, though, with me saying that is when I first watched it, I did like it, I did think it was good, loved the editing. The editing, like, period. Love the score, like the music, the original music, like, ate so hard. I just loved it. I love the sound, I love the way it looked, and I love what Josh O'Connor was doing. But I remember I walked away feeling a little bit like, I gave it a 3.5, I think, and I was like, this is good, like, it's fine, but kind of like lacking in some way. But then as the week and time went on, I was still really thinking about this movie, and I ended up putting it back on, and I was like, you know what, I actually really like this movie, and I think now that I understand what it's doing, I'm really into it. So I bumped it up to 4 stars. I think it's a really good, like, I wouldn't even call it slow burn, because this is what I'm going to say about this is, to a lot of people, this movie is going to be boring, but I almost feel like it's that way by design because of what it's getting at. All I'll give you is Josh O'Connor plays this guy who pulls off an art heist, and it doesn't necessarily go as to plan. But instead of being the traditional route of like a Man on the Run movie, I'll just say it's more of a Man on the Walk, the long walk, if you will, movie. And I don't know, the subversion of the expectations and just his performance really, it's an interesting, good time. I definitely recommend it, but I will say I only recommend it to people who have the attention span for like a not exciting movie and are willing to really take in like slow paced movies. All right, last and 4 stars, we have a big one. Which is weapons. Now, similar to the Mastermind, but for different reasons, I originally gave this movie like 3 stars. I was like not seeing the vision the way other people were. I did enjoy it. I fucked with Aunt Gladys, you know, but I was just like, I don't get what y'all are on with like saying this is like a masterpiece and all this stuff. But I think what it was is I just went in not really ready to like receive exactly what the movie was, and I was a bit like thrown off and like confused. And but then when I think I watched the Deadbeat podcast about it, and then I watched like a somebody react to it, so then it prompted me to like rewatch it, and I was like, actually, now that I've had time with this, I've heard other thoughts, and that's not to say I let other thoughts sway me. It just kind of made me help clear up the picture. I was like, this is really good. This is really good. The originality and the writing on this movie is great. Yeah, this is like, I definitely think future modern horror classic and very impressive. All right, now we are getting into my, like cream of the crop, my like movies that I, well, okay, not all of them. One of them I gave a high score, but it's not really my favorite. But we're getting into like movies that I rated pretty high, which is we're starting off 4.5 stars. Alphabetically, the first movie is Black Phone 2. For some of you, that might be crazy. But I don't know. This worked for me. I love Scott Derrickson. I think the editing in this was great. I think the way he, like, upped the horror in this, like, this is much darker than the first, The Black Phone. I don't know why it's The Black Phone. This one's Black Phone 2, but whatever. It really worked for me. I think this is like the way, if you're gonna do a sequel that didn't even necessarily need a sequel, like this is how you do it. I liked the story, I liked the directing, I liked the editing, the lead performances were great. Like, I don't know, this for me it worked. All right, next up we have Bugonia, which is the new film from Yorgos Lanthimos, with featured collaborators Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons. I really enjoyed this. I think I originally gave it a 4-star, and then when I bought it on DVD and got to rewatch it, I moved it up to a 4.5 because cinematography I love. I think this is something that could be very much overlooked for cinematography, but I love the cinematography. I love the score. Emma Stone's great in it, but for me, honestly, everyone's focusing on Emma Stone. For me, the Jesse Plemons performance is like immaculate. Like, he plays this guy who's kind of in his echo chamber and like believing all these really crazy conspiratorial stuff, but he does a good job of like making me understand like why he believes these things and not making it like just enough cartoonish but not too cartoonish, and like I'm still feeling the dramatic elements of like he really believes this. And this movie, it's great. I think what it's commenting on is great. The writing is great. The absurdity of it is great. The ending at first had me a little bit like, I don't know. But then I really came around to it. So yeah, if you're a Yorgos Lanthimos person, I really recommend Bugonia, and I personally really enjoyed it. Next up, we have Marty Supreme. Now, this is the other Safdie movie, Josh Safdie. So I'll say off the bat, Timothée Chalamet, give him the Oscar. This is his best performance in my opinion. I think it's the best performance of a male actor this year. Like, give him the Oscar. Loved that. Editing, great. Direction, great. Score, great. Tyler, the creator, great. But the reason it's not a 5, because for me, I like really debated, like, is this a 5 or a 4 point, or like a 4.5? I think for me, there's just some parts of the screenplay and the script that I just didn't think needed to be there, and I found it confusing to be in there. And also at the end of the movie, I didn't completely understand like where we ended up with Marty. Like, I'm not saying I would have necessarily changed it dramatically, but I think something else could have been a little bit added in there. But this is obviously like a great movie. Like, it's like the Safdie brothers make great movies. I think this overall it's really good. Like, it's a great movie. I just personally don't find it to be like at the level of a masterpiece in my own personal taste. Because this is also something where I'm probably not going to rewatch this. I did enjoy it, but it's like not 100% for me. But I do really, I think it's great. Next up, I'm ready to ruffle some feathers because I'm here to talk about one battle after another. the, best picture front runner. Um, I rated it very high because I think it is really good on a filmmaking level. Cinematography is great. Some of the direction, the sound, there's that scene, not to spoil anything, but like most people probably know by now, the scene with the road, like that blew me away. Good acting. I just personally, as time has gone on, don't find myself thinking that much about one battle after another, and I don't think I personally really get what it's trying to say. Like, I don't know, this movie, I could admit how good it is, but I also just don't think I completely can, like, get behind it. That's just my personal opinion. I think objectively it is really good, like 4.5, possibly even 5 stars. I'm personally a little bit unsure. All right, last up in 4.5, we have Sorry Baby, which is a movie I've been looking forward to all year since Sundance, and I just adored this. First of all, the score, beautiful. I love the piano in it. This is just, it's not like a happy-go-lucky movie. It's, it deals with it has a dark theme, but I think it's beautiful. I think it's how do I say this? As somebody who is close to home with the subject matter, it's just, I think it's a very beautiful film about how people deal with trauma when it happens to them, and how you can be stuck in it, how you can get out of it, and just the change in outlook on life and those types of things. And it has this great little touch of comedy to it that feels very earnest and genuine, even in the situation. I think Ava Victor really created a great film and delivered a great performance as well. All right, thank you if you made it this far, but we are at the 5 stars. These were my like holy shit movies that I watched over the last 5 or 6 months. I only have 3. We're in the long haul, but we're gonna start off with possibly a controversial opinion. I don't know, in a movie that like I have a very big personal connection to, so I will admit my bias. But for me, that is Frankenstein. I was looking forward to this all year. I read the book, and I really deeply fell in love with the book. So I think I could admit my bias of that going into the movie, and I really developed a deep personal connection to the creature. And then, so, it was kind of just a perfect storm for me. I loved the book. I like Guillermo del Toro a lot, and I also love Jacob Elordi. So going into it, I kind of was like knowing I was gonna like it, probably, hopefully. It was the first time I went to a movie too where I like felt anxiety as it started, the same way you feel like when you're waiting for a concert to start. Like, I really was excited to see this, and I just absolutely loved it. I saw it in the theaters twice. Like, I just loved it. I love Jacob as the creature. Not just because it's Jacob Elordi. I think just the way he portrayed the creature, like, I just fell in love with it. And I'm not really going to get into it here, but for the sake of the length of this video, but I really resonated with the creature in a beautiful way that I've really never related to a character or really anything before. So it's a very special movie to me, so I could admit the bias of the 5 stars. But even still, some of the criticism that people have of it, I don't personally have. I don't think the writing is lacking. I don't think the pacing is lacking. But I also understand, I read the book, so maybe I understand why things are the way they are. I also don't mind the changes from the book, because I understand that Guillermo was going for a little bit of a different theme than the book. The book's more grief and stuff like that, and the movie's a little bit more like family dynamics. But overall, I really, really love this movie, and I'm like over the moon that Jacob is getting his flowers for his performances. When I watched it, I felt like he deserved it, and I was kind of predicting that it would happen, but I wasn't so sure. But it did, and I'm very happy to see it. Next up, we have Hamnet. Now, I will say off the bat, this isn't necessarily like a movie I want to like rewatch, and I don't think it's like completely for me, but I also just cannot deny the filmmaking. I think aspects on the filmmaking level are great, and the performance from Jessie Buckley, like, I see why she's the front runner for the Oscar. I'm rooting for her in the Oscar. Like, it's a quietly devastating movie, and I don't think it feels like designed to make you emotional. It just does, because it's well written, it's well made, and the performances are so moving and powerful. All right, we have arrived at the last movie. God, this video is gonna be very long, but we have arrived at a movie that might surprise some people. I don't know, that I gave 5 stars, but I did, and that is Twinless. This is another movie that I was waiting for like all year. And when it finally got to me, I love this. I think, first of all, the editing I love. The editing really, like, impressed me. I thought they were doing some really cool stuff with the editing and the camera. But this story just went in ways I was not anticipating. It was doing really cool things. It's funny. It's like you're dropping your mouth, like you're dropping your jaw. Like, this is a really strong movie. I believe from James Sweeney. I'm really looking forward to whatever else he has to craft up, because I love this. And also Dylan O'Brien's performance in this movie, wow. Like, I can see why this didn't catch on to any like awards conversation, but I really think Dylan O'Brien, like, I wish he would have entered the conversation, because wow. Alright, well, this video was really fucking long, despite my best efforts to not, but I wanted to talk about all these movies that I watched last year and give you, like, some of my opinions on them. Next week, I'll be doing my 2025 movie ranking, not of these movies, but of movies that were new to me, that I watched for the first time last year, because I think it's just a fun little thing to do. Hopefully that video will be shorter, but there is like another 50 something movies, so we'll see. But you know what, long live long form content though. Like, I'm tired of the little like 30-second whatever. Well, yes. But anyways, that being said, thank you if you sat through all of this, and I will see you in the next one.